I think it's important to remember that the goal is the goal of truth-seeking, and the bond that should bind together interlocutors, whether they agree or disagree, is the bond of truth-seeking, understanding-seeking, wisdom-seeking. But for that to happen, there needs to be, as anyone would understand, civility. You have to be able to have a conversation with each other, not just shouting at each other. If you're going to work together in conversation, even debate, to get at the truth, the people involved in the conversation first have to recognize that they are fallible, frail, fallen human beings. They have to recognize that they could be wrong. Each one has to recognize, I could be, even about my most cherished beliefs, I could be wrong. And if in fact one has that attitude and understanding, not in a merely notional way, but in a deeply appropriated way, then one will begin to develop a virtue that is indispensable for truth-seeking, and that is the virtue of intellectual humility. If you don't have intellectual humility, you're going to assume you have everything to teach and nothing to learn. The conversation is not going to be a conversation, it's going to be a lecture. I lecture for a while, he lectures for a while. But that's not going to get us anywhere. When that virtue of intellectual humility is in place, now we can get somewhere. Now, when that's in place, then some magic begins to happen. Because when it's in place, you no longer see your conversation partner, however much you may disagree, as an adversary to be defeated, much less humiliated in debate. You don't see him as an adversary at all. Rather, you understand him, not just notionally, but in a deeply appropriated way, as a partner in a common enterprise, seeking a common goal, a common good, the good of understanding, of truth, of wisdom. There are two possibilities. One is, when you enter into the dialogue, you could be wrong, and your partner could be right. If so, and if he can explain to you the arguments and reasons supporting his view, then he has done you an enormous favor. This guy who might have been perceived as your enemy has just performed the greatest act of friendship anybody could ever perform for another person. Moved them from error to truth, from an inferior understanding to an enhanced or superior understanding, from a failure on the intellectual side, perhaps even to something as grand as wisdom. What greater gift could someone give? The other possibility, of course, is you could be right and he could be wrong. But if you are engaging in good faith with a person who is engaging with you in good faith and has something to offer because that person has thought deeply and critically about a subject, even a subject on which he happens to be wrong, even if you are not persuaded, even if you are in fact right, his challenges to you, his counter-arguments to your arguments will help you to understand more fully, more richly, more deeply, and to appropriate more fully, and not to just understand at a superficial level why in fact what you believe is true, and what that means beyond just being a proposition, what that means about your life, our lives, the lives of our communities.